listening to Revenue Insights. Today, I'm joined by Chris Turner-Green, Vice President of Sales for EMEA at TechnologyAdvice. Chris's career has seen him take senior sales leadership positions across B2B in international digital and national news media. Chris, it's a pleasure, and I know I talk to a lot of software folks on this show. I'm very interested to talk media sales today.
Thanks, Lee. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here and to share you my thoughts and opinions on where we are in the world today.
Excellent. Let's begin then on, I'd love to hear a bit more about you, your story, how you got to where you are today.
Thanks. Yeah. So I left uni like most people, not entirely sure what I wanted to do with my career. I knew I wanted to do either sales or marketing, and I ended up selling to marketeers. So I sort of found that magic happy space between the two of them. First starting in national media, as you said, selling media solutions for the Sun, the Times, and the Sunday Times. Back in the day when print was king. So that obviously quickly changed and moved to digital. I left there, having been there for 17 years, trying to man and boy and doing everything that could be considered in that industry. Moved on to international media. And during that time at international media, I discovered my love of demand generation and B2B advertising. Through that, I found a connection into TechnologyAdvice. As you said, I am now VP of Sales here, leading EMEA and driving the business for SaaS companies to reach new customers.
Excellent. And I think as I kind of started the show was today and the conversation, I think a lot of folks listening will have a very good understanding from a B2B sales perspective, but perhaps don't have too much insight into B2B media sales. So what would you say is unique about B2B media sales compared to B2B sales more generally?
Sure. So B2B sales and SaaS sales normally is looking for high ticket price items and also long-standing SaaS agreements, 12 months or longer to be able to go through. The world of B2B marketing and media is the fact that you're normally selling per campaign, which can be 1 month or 3 months. That means that you're continuously seeking renewals, upsells, cross-sales, and net new customers in. You don't enter a quarter or a year with a very large percentage pre-booked. You're selling in the quarter for immediate activation. That makes it exciting. It also makes it volatile, but it means that you're looking for customized solutions there as well. You don't have like 3 different packages or 4 different packages that you can choose from. Everything starts from scratch and understanding what the customer's needs are and then seeking the best solution to deliver on them.
What does that look like from the seller's perspective, where I really like the idea of really understanding the customer's needs and tailoring the solution that is required, but I had the opportunity to kind of get under the skin a bit of what TechnologyAdvice does before this, but yeah. I know you do lots of different services that you are selling for customers. So how are you getting your reps up to speed, knowing, taking this approach of, they're the expert, right? And so they are tailoring the solution to the client. But when you have so many different solutions, how do you get them to a stage where they're able to do that successfully?
Good question. I think it's nearly impossible to sell a solution unless you know what the customer's goals are at the end of it. Are they looking for, so basically we're selling demand generation, so they're seeking leads from us, but where is their business and what are their customers' expectations? What are their marketing and also their sales team's expectations? Because the two are intrinsically linked. Are they looking for top of funnel leads where they're going to need to nurture them and look to get ahead of the market and build a brand reputation early? Or they're looking for bottom of funnel leads where they're looking to convert them to sale really rapidly and really quickly. And we're able to identify that through behaviors in our first party intent data. The salesperson needs to recognize where the customer is in their journey and their needs. Are they targeting a target account list? Are they looking for an ICP? Are they going to be calling them up first, or are they going to be emailing them next? What's the state? What's their next step in their journey? You really need to understand their sales process to provide them the best marketing solution to facilitate that. And if you don't ask, you just don't find out. And ultimately, you're unlikely to win. And if you do win, you won't get repeat business.
I suppose how I'm looking at this is, in your role as VP of Sales, how are you ensuring then that they're asking the right questions?
Ensuring is a tough thing. So we're a remote business, so there's a high level of trust that needs to be able to go into your team. We provide high quality sales presentations and informations, but fundamentally our CRM and our sales process is set up that it's nearly pretty much impossible to make a proposal offer without understanding what the needs are, because we have so many variables set up to us to be able to make that happen. It's not as simple as saying we're going to push them into box A, B, C, D, or E, and we're going to make a best guess for it. Everything started from scratch. So without being able to have the answers to those questions, we don't know where to build. So the salesperson has a very long onboarding process. We're pretty proud of that. It takes about 3 weeks to get through the whole training and understanding. We take it right the way back to what is demand generation? What is the value of publishing in our services and solutions? What do our brands stand for? As much as how does each and every single option they have available to sell and how you combine them together make a difference? And so when you have all that put in place, then you're able to make sure you have the best team there. I'm a real true believer that training is one of the most important things you can do. Training should never stop. We definitely believe in that. But if you don't have the right training in place, then you can't make it happen.
I want to take us into, I guess, one of my favorite topics, and you kind of alluded to it previously, was data. And I know you were talking about first-party intent data. So let me ask probably a bit more broadly to begin with. What role does data play in your sales process?
Sure. I mean, data is fundamental in everything that happens in today. I mean, whether you're looking at data and performance or you're looking at intent data. On intent data, we're able to extract intent data from the fact that we have a portfolio of 30 professionally created websites. That enables us to analyze which companies are researching what type of B2B SaaS technology solutions, and indeed what stage of the funnel they're in. We're able to tag different articles relative whether the top of the funnel, when you're reaching out and finding out what is HR tech, can it do for me, compared to an article where they're comparing SAS success factors SAP success factors against Workday. You're able to understand where they are on that funnel stage. We're able then to apply that and target people. We do not have data to be able to do it. We are not able to offer a solution and a service back to us. Data is the new gold in many ways that goes back. If you don't have data, then you can't deliver anything. So optimization of campaigns can't happen with data. You can't target people without data. You can't understand what the sales funnel is looking like without data. And that's why all SaaS systems that we use, as well as we sell to, are fundamental to delivering on media and marketing solutions.
Could you perhaps dig in a little bit further on perhaps one of those? So I get the sense that you're using data at kind of different stages, but I'm actually quite interested in something that we were talking before, particularly around like audience activation and measurement, for example. I'd love to understand like a specific instance where you are using data to enhance your sales process.
Yeah. So in terms of enhancing our sales process, we're able to identify intent data coming in to recognize when someone's in market and interested in purchasing let's say a CRM system. We recognize that data that company is showing it. You may have a company that hasn't researched on our websites for 5 years about anything or about CRM. Suddenly, 3 people from that company, that domain, drop onto our websites and research what's the best CRM system in there. We're able to recognize that, and then we're able to sell that as part of a demand generation or ABM campaign back to a SaaS company that provides CRM software solutions. So if we don't have that data, we can't sell it. Now, how do we sell that data? We're not selling it as an IP address, we're selling it as a lead, right? And that person's had to consent to be contacted by that new company that's being able to go through. And what we're able to do is hook that all up together using what's often regarded as content syndication.
What's an initiative that you're working on at the minute that you're most excited about?
Most excited about is, so right now, if you're looking at sort of B2B buyers, 50% of buyers are millennials, and the ever increasing amount are also Gen Zers. And that means that compared to the days when I was first in the work environment where I could, I left my work, it was 5 days in the office, I was working on a desktop and I left and you couldn't get in contact with me because of the way that we are today, flexible working, remote working, hybrid working, having mobile phones and laptops and iPads. It's very difficult to disseminate the difference between B2B and B2C. So that means B2C trends are really coming in to B2B environments. So we need to now think differently in terms of how the buyer's journey is happening. Gartner has a very good image that talks about a really overly complex buyer's journey, which recognizes buyers that come in. It's a big mess on purpose in a way, and it's not a linear fashion. But because of the B2C journey, it means that things like attention and brand awareness are now more important than it ever has been. And for me, that means that B2B media solutions and B2B marketing ideas are continuously changing and evolving. And what was good today didn't exist 12 months ago. And what is good and what will happen in the near 12 months will be completely different. And attention is the key detail to that now. Recognizing that someone has seen a brand, recognized a brand, what the value is, and then activating that at every single stage of the funnel. So there's a lot of things, obviously, that I can't share in a public podcast, but attention is the key thing that has moved from B2C to B2B, which is fascinating at the moment.
How do you apply that within kind of your approach with TechnologyAdvice? Because I understand that that's kind of the service that you are offering to customers, but I guess where I'm getting at is in terms of sipping at your own champagne, right? So your approach is, can see the value of having this awareness that folks come to you. And I know, the kind of companies that you work with are large enterprise scale organizations, right? So how do you go about generating that awareness and grabbing that attention of folks in the enterprise space?
Can you ask the question again? I do apologize.
So how do you go about drinking your own champagne with that in mind? So you speak a lot of the importance of having attention and generating awareness so that you are constantly front of mind for potential leads and potential accounts. And I know the kind of folks that you work with are enterprise size companies, right? So how do you as TechnologyAdvice go about ensuring that you are grabbing that attention with prospective clients internally?
Sure, thank you. It's a challenge. There are some very well-established brands. I'm VP of Sales for EMEA, and so in many regards, we are seeking to upset the apple cart of the more established players over here. So we need to stand out and we need to be different. And you can't just have one solution. So right at the moment, we're pushing quite heavily on thought leadership and case studies, as well as offering differentiated solutions, as well as then doing all the other tactics that B2B SaaS companies are doing: email outreach, advertising, SEO, and alike. I'll go into a couple of those points. In terms of thought leadership and case studies, they are fundamentally important now. If our solutions that we offer and other providers offer, there are similarities between what we offer and what other people do. We obviously believe that ours are better and have a better brand value attributed to it. But you have to be able to sell that. And the best way to sell that and inform that is to tell a story. And that's why case studies are so important. People remember a story so many times better than they remember a number. And that's a key message for us in terms of going through who are our best case studies, how we delivered well on them, getting them to talk about it. And those are some of the things you would have seen probably most recently in the last 2 weeks when we're recording this, as well as you'll see continuing going forward. I think that's fundamentally important as well. And the sales guys also need to be brand ambassadors for what we're doing. They on LinkedIn need to be talking about our companies in manners of ways and thought leadership and engaging with our customers, right, on all the different platforms we're able to do that on. And then we use our own tasks and solutions that we have as well.
It's such an interesting point because I think regardless of the size of your organization, the demand for thought leadership has kind of exploded over the last few years.
Yeah.
And it's a race to be front of mind where it's almost, and particularly I think there's been a shift away from just brands becoming that thought leader, but you've also got the individuals within the organizations really trying to become that thought leader as well. What would you say from your experience you've seen work in the sense of thought leadership?
The most important thing is not to regurgitate what everybody else has already said and have a differential point of view.
Mm.
Uh, you, as you said, thought the reason why there's so much thought leadership out there is because it works and people remember it, and people come to you and seek you out and remember that you gave this little nugget piece of information 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months ago, before they're making a purchasing decision. And remember where they got that from, and they held you in high regard. To differentiate your thought leadership, you've got to think differently. I personally find it cringeworthy when you get to the December period to early January period where everyone proclaims what the next 12 months is going to look like, and they all basically just extend the current trends and projections out. That's not thought leadership. That's extrapolation of where we are today. I think true thought leadership is recognizing something that's happening a long time in the future. Right now, anyone who says the future trend is going to be AI, absolutely it's going to be AI, but we're already there, right? This is not a new thing, right? What we should really be thinking about is what is the implications of AI going to be, right? Not in terms of what's AI going to do, but what's that effect going to have moving forward, right? What is AI going to enable us to do next that no one's thought of? That's where the next trend's going to be. And then how is that going to adapt our lifestyles and our outlook and our jobs? I talk often about how is AI going to affect sales, for example, right? So will AI replace salespeople? No, right? But those people who use AI will replace those people who don't use AI. At the same time now I'm a B2B publisher, right, as well. People come to our sites, don't expect to see an article written by AI. They expect to see an article written by a professional journalist that's got well researched, understood, high opinion, well regarded. They go there for that. So AI doesn't work for us there, and that's the challenge that you have. Will AI replace Google in some shape or form? To a degree, probably not completely, and Google's has got their own solution. But that's, I think, where people need to differentiate themselves. They can't just extrapolate out. They need to be differentiated. They need to think clever and work on what the implications are of what these trends are going to be.
I like where you were going with that, and would like to dig a bit further into, well, let's say AI. But you come with two very interesting perspectives. One on the AI front, but also was the publishing background as well. And I think for buyers at the minute, and there's plenty of industry research out there that talks of, it's no longer a seller's game, it's very much a buyer's game, and they really have the ball is very much in their court when it comes to making a decision around technology or services that they're going to buy. And naturally, I think we're reaching a very interesting point with the advent of AI, where it's easier than ever to produce a hell of a lot of content, but to your point, not being able to necessarily differentiate it. And I think I wouldn't call myself a thought leader, but there's definitely going to be an interesting change over the next few years where, with the amount of AI generated content out there, who does the buyer trust? And can they trust in the information that they're seeing that's available out there, considering the sources that it's coming from? So I guess my question then would be, how do you see AI impacting businesses, but also impacting the buyers themselves?
Through my career, I've worked for publishers, and I truly believe in the value of professionally created media. Now, whether that's in a red top newspaper like The Sun, or whether it's in B2B media like Tech Republic, where I work now, the value, while the content is completely different, you've trusted someone to write that article, and it has to stand up to some level of truth that sits behind it. AI right now crawls across the web, right, and all data sources, and then extrapolates and does some incredibly credible things. But the problem is, if the origination of that sits in something that is less than trustworthy, then you have some challenges. I also have a situation where you can I use ChatGPT, right, to improve some of the things that I write, right, but I use it to improve it. But if I ask ChatGPT to go off and I go, I'm not sure that's right, it will then correct it. So what was it? Was it not wrong in the first place to be able to go back? So the validity of AI is still a bit questionable, but it's an amazing advance that goes through. Going back to sales and the environment, yes, the problem is that AI enables you to scale with all the other tools that are available out there. With the Salesloft or Apollo and other ones like that, well, you're able to send out a phenomenal number of emails, and AI enables you to write a phenomenal amount of words. But the problem is that they all look exactly the same. Now, I saw a recent report not so long ago saying that about 50% of emails that are written by AI can be spotted as written by AI. That's a problem, because no one wants to be currently right now wants to be sold to by a computer. They expect a human to be on the back end of it, unless it's a low ticket price item or an easy purchase to buy where they can just go on and click through the system and make a purchase and download it or get access to the tool. So the difficulty now is finding that happy medium. Now, for me personally, AI should be an enhancement in the same way that you used to use Google or still do. I want to find where's this industry going? What's my thought can be on this? It's a stimuli to get you to put your own information through. And that's what we should be using AI for, and absolutely should be using to improve grammar and cutting down the length of emails. I remember, I look back at some of my emails that I wrote many years ago, and you print it out and recover 2 sides of A4. I can now get it into a paragraph and a half. I can do that naturally, but also AI can improve it. And I think that's going to make sales better. But if you're going back to what my industry is in demand generation, is you think about it, lots of B2B SaaS companies, they use white papers, right? And white papers, we can spot them, the ones written by AI. They don't have anything unique in, they don't have any thought leadership that actually is going to change them. And it doesn't talk about the successes in a way of a case study, because AI doesn't generate that. And you think about it, I said that storytelling makes a difference in sales. Having unique data makes a difference in sales. And so when you're using white papers, which I presume nearly all SaaS companies use in some shape or form, right? Those white papers can be informed by AI, right? But there's nothing better than putting in a first-party case study testimonial, your own first-party data and information in there. Or if you're going to do research, do proprietary research to be able to talk about it. Those are differentials that are really going to be able to stand out. So AI right now for salespeople is a great tool, an enhancer, doesn't replace. In the future, quite possibly. I think if you spoke to me in 10 years' time, I'm quite sure I'll have a different point of view at the rate that AI is going. But right now, it enhances, doesn't replace. But those who, as I said earlier, those who don't use it will be chopped. And that's the kind of thing where we are now. Whether, obviously, in B2B sales, I'm going to be at the front end of that. In my days of national print, and obviously they still exist, they're probably using it less. But they will all still be using it in some manner or way.
Well, for one, at least we have this recording in 10 years' time. We can refer back and see how we're getting on.
That doesn't appear on LinkedIn in 10 years' time. I might come back to regret that. I mean, it'd be a little meme of me saying, how wrong was Mr. Green? Yeah, so yeah.
Well, I suppose ChatGPT will be devouring the transcripts soon enough.
Exactly.
But joking aside, it's certainly reaching an interesting point where I think, as you kind of alluding to, becomes that very important balance between quality and quantity, both in terms of the quality, but also what you're sending as well. To your point, and I was thinking it as you were kind of talking through it, which is tools like AI can help you to generate a lot more, but it's not necessarily the message that you want to communicate, right? And sales, which has been built on relationships for its entirety, has certainly over like the growth at all costs period almost kind of switched to becoming, in my opinion, something far more mechanical. And there's this aim to be far more predictable and efficient. And it's led us to the point where we almost look at sales not as an art, but far more as a science, when in fact, I think it's a balance between the two. And so with something like AI, which enables you to far more tips it in terms of the balance towards being a science, but actually those who are really strong at the art, being able to build genuine relationships, being able to build genuine partnerships with customers, they're the ones that are probably going to not only be able to cut through the noise, like in a demand generation sense of being able to differentiate, but also from a sales perspective as well of, we're not just another piece of software, another tool or another service. It's there is a connection here between the two of us, and we actually want to work together for each other's benefit.
100%. I'm no spring chicken, so I remember the fact that you did your meetings and you did your sales face to face, and I still believe people buy from people. There is an exception to that, so people who could transact online and make a quick purchase and get what they want and remove themselves really quickly, and just get into the tool, that may be an exception. But if you've got any kind of level of considered purchase, like a B2B purchase, particularly a large one, or one where you're committing to a large period of time, people buy from the person they're speaking to. And AI is not going to replace that until AI gets a situation where someone can replace me physically on this screen talking about where we are, and the person receiving it is happy to talk to an AI tool, which I don't believe anyone is. We still talk about today that, you make an impression in the first 7 seconds. Right? That still exists in all purchasing and all selling. So it's fundamentally important that you meet people. We are a fully remote company, but I still encourage my team to get in their cars and trains and go and see their customers. Predominantly, we're in London. Our customers are London-based, or definitely the southeast. And so I still want them to go and see them, and there's a value in that. And the conversations that you can have face-to-face that you can't have on Zoom or Google Meet, likewise you can't have on the phone, you can't have by email, are immense. I talk about it being the elevator moment, or the water cooler moment, where someone says, do you want to drink? Absolutely I want to drink, because that's an opportunity for me to talk to you about something that you may not be deciding to give me when we get down to formal negotiations. So it's really important to be able to go through and understand that buyer, understand their needs, where they're coming from, where their role and responsibility sits. It's you have to do things face to face, and AI currently is not going to replace that.
But concerned in the day that AI can replace us in a face to face scenario. To be fair,
but especially watching Hollywood films, they will let you know that that's coming very rapidly. Films like Creator and the like are going to suggest the fact that the world's going to be over very soon. So yeah.
Based off of what we were just talking about, I'm curious then, and you mentioned earlier in our conversation the kind of the onboarding process that you have internally and the sales process that you have that, by the sounds of it, really gives solid guardrails for your team. What I'm therefore interested to kind of dig into then is what differentiates your top performers from the rest? What are they doing that's different?
So we have some really linear and key measures of success. So we measure all teams by clearly they're salespeople, so the amount of revenue they bring in. We then divide that revenue up by, is it retention of existing business? Have they diversified their revenue from the existing business, and have they brought in net new revenue? That's a lagging indicator. So then we move to the leading indicators. We're looking at things like how many opportunities have they opened up? How many opportunities they opened up across how many different accounts? Because we work in media, you work with clients direct, and you also work with agencies, and then agencies can brief you for 5 or 6 or 7 different brands. Outside of that, what's their strike and win rates? What's their average deal size? And then also, as I mentioned, I'm a true believer of meetings. How many meetings have they had that they've arranged as opposed to an SDR's arranged? That enables you to score them and understanding where they're sitting and understand where they sit their benchmarks. But the best salesperson, and we're going back to recognizing personalization again, is the one who recognizes the needs of the customer, right? And is able to put a solution together that matches that, because that's what delivers you retention. In a business like ours, you have to retain customers. You can't just be churning them all the time. We don't have a 12-month renewal period. They can leave after a 1-month deal if they're not happy. So you need to understand what their expectations are. And if you do not understand their expectations, manage their expectations, and make sure you sell a solution that matches it, you're going to completely lose them. And the best salespeople are the ones that can do that, combined with an ability to do an elevator pitch. It sounds old school talking about elevator pitches, but if they can't explain who Technology Advice are, what are USPs versus the incumbents in the market, and why people should move their monies from solution provider A to solution provider B quickly and succinctly, they're never going to get in the door to actually get to past negotiation.
On your point, because everything that you raise is absolutely spot on. Mm-hmm. If you've got a rep that perhaps is not currently able to really get it, like the customer need, mm-hmm. if you're, perhaps you're shadowing a meeting or reviewing a call, and it's just like they're just not getting it.
Yep.
How do you approach helping them?
So I'm a leader that likes to get their hands dirty. Right? So I don't think I'll ever work for an organization where I can't go to those sales meetings and be involved in it. And that's where leading from the front is really important to be able to do that. So yeah, if there's a rep, if a rep who gets it, and you mentioned top performers, they have a much lighter touch from me than the ones that need that support and assistance to be able to go through. And it's important to join meetings. There are lots of tools that review meetings, and you can review it, but then that's all kind of retrospective. I much prefer that if there's a video call, I'll jump in. If there's a face-to-face, I'll get the trainer and go and see them as well. And then the rep you're able to look at the rep, you're able to support him or her. And then also the fact is you're able to show the rep what he could be doing by interjecting at the right points and conveying that. And there's no better way to show someone what you should do than experience it in real life. I talk about training. What's the most important way of doing training? Is it to watch a recording of a training that happened 6 months ago? Or is it to physically attend a training, physically or real life, right? And then have the opportunity to ask questions as they come up. Because I guarantee you, if someone else has got that question, you probably have as well, or vice versa. So to be in there, to be in the weeds is important. Now, that's not possible for every meeting at every time for every call, but you're able to spot the needs of the team, as well as the needs of the business. The team, everyone has, we use Salesforce, so I've got measurement up and down, every single left, right, I can see every single thing and I identify that, but also the needs of the business, where we should be doing more money or which client has been a blocker and we need to address. Then I'll step in and help and assist and hope and then believe that that having seen what I can do, therefore they can do better. I do have a caveat that I'm not saying that my way is the best way. And you must also enable the sales rep to have their own language and their own way of selling. Back in the past, I've been given presentations and said, can you go out and sell that? I can never sell that as well as a presentation that I've written, I designed, I bullet pointed, I can talk around, because you've had a lot more involvement in it and you believe in it. So that's really important for me when the sales guys talk about it. If I give them decks and presentations, I say, look, this is a really good one that's been created either by me or by someone else in the business. So you need to create your own version of this, as long as the key points you're still communicating in a really strong way, because the language I use compared to a person who is 21, 22 is going to be different. So we need to enable them to land it in that manner and way.
Absolutely. Final question.
Sure.
And I know you're ready for this one.
Yeah.
What is one book that you'd recommend to other revenue leaders?
So we talked about this before recording. So I am different to probably most that, again, going back to face-to-face, I don't read that many books. And if I do, it's because I'm on holiday and then I'm choosing to do a fiction book rather than a work help book. And I much prefer sitting down and talking to someone and engaging with them and doing a training session with them than reading a book that takes you a week or 2 weeks to read. However, within that, I had the opportunity to meet Andy Bounds, who wrote The Jelly Effect, which talks about afters. And I think afters is an amazing concept that should be in every single thing that a salesperson does, whether they be an SDR right the way up to VP or CRO. And that's just recognizing, what do you want your customer to do afterwards? And that comes down to not just at the end of the meeting, but every single slide. And then I take it to the next level to every single bullet point. Does that bullet point, because I still use bullet points rather than memes, talk about is the go through is, does that bullet point, does that make a difference? All right. And if it does, you keep it in. If it doesn't, get rid of it and move it on. Because no one's going to sit there and do a 60-minute presentation with you and let you run through it. You have to get to the point, and you have to make sure it's value suits. I mean, the biggest giveaway normally is does it really make a difference that you have 17 offices across the world and show a map with every single dot of where they are in the world? No. But I can guarantee you there are a lot of presentations that still have that in. What does that tell you? Are you trying to say that you're large and you can be trusted? Then do a case study. Talk about you work with large companies and you can be trusted. That's far more impactful. And those are kind of mindful I sit back. So while I haven't read The Jelly Effect, I physically have a copy, but it's never been bent open. But I've spoken to Andy, and it changed the way that I sell. So yeah, I'm very proud of that.
I love that. And I suppose as you were explaining it, and I'm very interested to read the book because, I come at it from a marketer's perspective. If we're talking about writing copy that goes into a website, and the same principle can be applied to whether you're writing an email or designing a process, the importance is not only simplifying it, but condensing all of that information down into something that is incredibly succinct. And I love that example of applying it into a sales process of, the example being, pulling together a proposal, for example. The amount of times I go through and either review something and I'm like, fluff. Like, this is fluff, that is fluff. I trained to be a journalist, and in my head, I'm just like, no, all of this, completely unneeded. And you just condense it down to the single most important bit and most valuable bit is incredibly important.
Entirely. If you talk about it, he takes presentations. I'm not sure I live by my rules exactly to the line, but I used to have a thing that there was no more than 5 bullet points per slide, no more than 2 lines per bullet point. You can get around that by using type and smaller font sizes, but you still have that information in place. And that's the way you should communicate. And does it add value to your conversation? If it doesn't add value, there is absolutely no point in being there. I use the example of where the offices are in the world. Does it also matter that the company was established in 1998 or 2004? Not really, right? But it does matter, make a difference, is the fact of what are you going to provide the customer at the end, and not only what's the product, but what's it going to enable him or her to do, and just get to that. And if they've got a trust issue, install trust another way. But I can guarantee you the fact that you've been established for 20 years is not going to make a difference to it. The exceptions to that is, if the person who founded the company is talking about it, then yes, of course they can talk about it because that's fundamental to them. But as a salesperson within it, no.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. Just before we go, if anyone wants to reach out, ask any questions off the back of our conversation today, where can they find you?
Sure. I'm on LinkedIn, probably the best way to find me. I'm Chris Turner Green. There are only 2 Turner Greens in the UK, myself and my wife on LinkedIn. So unless you want to work with charities, then I'm the other one. So come find me. I look forward to speaking to anyone who messages me.
Beautiful. I'll put a link down to that below as well. If it wasn't easy enough to find as it is. Chris, thanks so much again. And to everyone that listened this week. Catch you next week.